This is what we do. This is what we do, Ronnie.
I'm done with you.
Wait a minute, I can't find us. I can't find us yet. Mickey, where are we? Oh, there we are, Ronnie. There we are. So let me go ahead and share. Huh? Give a few people to come on. Give them time to come on, you guys. Come on and share and let everyone know that she showed up.
Were you worried I wasn't going to?
Yep. I think I and most of Flint were worried that you weren't going to show up, but you showed up, and I'm glad that you did show up, Ronnie.
Of course I would.
Ronnie showed up for the people, y'all. So we're gonna have to. That in itself, we thank Ronnie for. Hold on, Ronnie. I'm still sharing to a few people here.
Okay, I'm looking for you.
You're looking for me.
So that you can throw it up on my
WYNTIS. Go find it. I need to put it in. Well, Mickey can handle putting it in the groups. Oh,
do you guys have an extra tripod? I can
Negative.
Yes. Yes, I do in my car.
Oh, I do too in my car.
Yeah.
I want
Trevor just has to go look for it in the back of my car.
If you do, I'll actually I do. So I'm not disappearing.
Okay, she's
Go
not
on.
disappearing. Look, she gone already.
She got tired of us.
But the good thing, we got good eyes on her today because we didn't see 4 City of Flint trucks ride by in the past 5 minutes before she got here. So we understand that people are watching, and that'll give me some more time to share with everybody while Ronnie is gone out. Mickey, you hitting the groups?
I did.
You hit the groups, thank you.
I got my thought.
Brother. It's my brother from another mother.
The less pretty mother, of course.
Huh?
The less pretty mother, of course.
Oh no, both of our mothers are beautiful. All mothers are beautiful.
So I always carry a little bag with me.
Why?
Carry a mandatory brick in there?
Tricks and oh,
I swear.
you never know when you're going to need.
So you just may stop and go live one day?
Yeah, I have mics, lights, everything.
Because you sure lit up that one man that was coming out that school.
That's true.
I mean, Ronnie knew what she was walking into today. She knew.
That man looked like he didn't have lights.
Here we go.
Studio audience is shutting up.
All right.
Is this going to mess up your shot if I do this? I'll move closer to you. And then.
I'm like, why is our table? I'm like, Ronnie better not move our new table.
No. Sliders on it. That thing's
I
heavy.
see, but I just thought it was just sliding around like that.
No. Okay.
Okay.
So I think they can see us
Yes,
and
they
not
can.
be in your shot, right? Okay.
I gotta make sure I look good for your camera too.
There you go. Tell me when you want to start.
All right, we are starting now. So thank you, everyone, for joining in today for a special noon edition of the Wyntis Hall Show with Ronnie Dahl.
You say it so dramatic.
I mean, I am dramatic. And, when I made the flyer, I said, she's dramatic like me too. And you have a big mouth.
I do.
I have a big mouth. And I said, we are 2 bad bitches with big mouths. And they let the 2 wrong bitches link up. And then all of a sudden, Ronnie was like, I got bad bitch, Blight bitch t-shirts. And then it just took off from there.
I do like how you said bad bitches. So we could be bad bitches, Blight bitches.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
Bad
BBB.
Blight bitches.
Right? Exactly. There you go.
Yeah,
there
I
you
need
go.
to copyright that. So So we are in the 810 new studio. She came over here to visit us, first of many.
I love what you guys are doing because I feel like this city needs different voices. Every city needs different voices. That's what journalism is about. It's been controlled by media outlets for so long, and now technology is allowing other voices to be included.
Absolutely.
So,
I
think that's great.
I say it's the internet. Like, anybody can have a voice now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nobody owns this.
Yep.
Everyone can. It's another City of Flint truck, Ronnie. We are booming today, baby. I tell you, we are booming. When they ride by next time, we're gonna wait for them. Okay.
Right.
I think this is great. I love it. So Ronnie.
Yeah.
Can you tell the people why you want to come on the Wyntis show, the no bullshit show? We got a new podcast table, so I was hoping the mics were put in because I wanted to play like Charlie the Duck for a second. Welcome to the no bullshit show, Ronnie. So yeah, Ronnie, you chose me.
Do you
Ronnie.
know I worked with Charlie?
No.
Yes.
You did?
I worked with Charlie, like we worked together at Fox 2. So I'm going to tell you a story about Charlie LaDuff.
Well, first you got to tell the people why you chose Wyntis Hall show. Then we get into Charlie.
It's about you got to look for people that are real people telling real stories. Mm-hmm. And so you're all over the place. So I mean, I'm new. I will say, everyone knows I'm new to covering Flint,
right?
But I also don't live in Flint. I live in Oakland County. But the one thing I'm always like, I will always find a story, and my stories will always be people's stories,
right?
And so when I started here, it's always a concern if you don't live in the neighborhoods,
right?
Doesn't
you
matter.
Stay in Flint,
people
so you can't care.
People are people,
right?
And so before my shifts, I would always just drive around and stop and talk to people, because that's what you do. And I'm surprised at how many people are like, "Oh my God, aren't you afraid?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? People are people,
right?"
And they'll stop and talk to you, but you also you have to know how to read people. I've been doing this long enough to know, like, you read people and you read crowds, but when you just stop and you talk to people about real life things,
right,
they'll usually give me their time.
Yeah, they want to talk. They just want somebody to listen to
That's
them.
it.
That's all people want.
Yep.
Listen to me. Give me a voice. Give me a chance to speak.
Yep. And
that's what I'm trying to do in Flint.
Yeah.
Give people a platform. Let them express themselves. They may not be right out there protesting right now, but it may get there. Mm-hmm. But they never had an outlet like this before.
And I think part of it too is showing that if you come together, there are more people alike than different. Mm-hmm. But if you come together and you live on the same block and you start talking to one another, if you join your forces, you can make a difference.
Right, absolutely.
Don't give up.
Right.
Don't accept things like this is just the way it is.
Yeah, I hear that.
That's what gets me in trouble, by the way.
Right.
That's what gets me in trouble is I'm not a yes person, and there's something in me that can't be that person. So
yeah, that's why
it gets me in trouble.
That's why we didn't think we were gonna show up today, Ronnie. But tell me about Charlie. Tell me about Charlie the Duff. Tell me, how was it working with Charlie? What did you see in Charlie that makes us similar?
I think so. A little bit of background. I was working in Detroit, and at the time, I was at Fox 2, and I was per diem, which is it's freelance, right? So they call you up. Hey, we need you to come in and work today.
Right.
I'm at the gym. Okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes, right?
Right.
So my husband also works at Fox 2. He does sports. He's been there for 20 plus years. So
you were those anchors that were in love at the news.
No.
Okay.
But I started out as a producer. So for me, I started behind the scenes. I was a producer, an executive producer. So it kind of gives me insight into the whole the whole world. And the only reason why I jumped on air is because I wanted to be a field producer for the networks.
Okay.
And when I did that, they were like, wait a minute, you need in-field experience. So they usually hire reporters. So that's when I jumped in front of the camera.
Right.
And then when I did that, and then, you know, decided to get married and this, that, and the other, and, you know, being on the road 300 days out of the year wasn't going to work so well for the relationship.
Right.
So
and the fur baby.
I know.
I love our fur
I
babies.
know. So I was working per diem. I had worked at Fox 2 prior as a producer. I did the weekend morning shows, kind of left, did the on-air thing.
Fox 2 News is big.
You know,
It's big.
because they're an O&O. But I wasn't, you have to, well, and back in those days, it's a different world today. You had to start in a small market to be on camera. So I went from producing in a top 10 market, because Detroit at that time was a top 10, and then jumping back down in markets to be on air, to get that on air experience. So I did weekend weather in Lansing, which was horrible. By the way, I still have the book Weather for Dummies.
Oh my God! You were a meteorologist.
No, I wasn't. I was just the weather person, you know, and then reported 3 days a week. But it was so bad. I used to hyperventilate because I was so nervous, and it was painful. Thank God they didn't have the internet then.
Thank
So,
God.
I would
made a meme out
hate
ya.
to see. Oh my God, I would hate to see a tape of that today. So then I kind of went from there, and then Toledo, because the good thing about living in Detroit, we have markets that you can drive to. So then I went to work in Toledo, and I actually grew up in Tiffin, Ohio. So Toledo is that part of that market. Became like, again, it was starting freelance as a reporter, and then became the weekend anchor, and then an investigative reporter. And at the same time, I was working at Channel 7 at that time as like a producer, writer, fill in for them. But then I always wanted to work for Steve Wilson because I knew I wanted to do investigative. So Steve Wilson, I'm kind of dating myself here. But
yeah, because I have no idea who Steve Wilson is.
Y'all need to Google him. I mean, he was, when Kwame Kilpatrick was mayor, he was, you know, he was the
one on Kwame's ass.
Yes. And so I was his researcher. And so it teaches you skills. Like, I'll tell everyone out there, always take a job where you learn something new.
Right.
Doesn't care how many steps down, how many steps up. Just take a job where you learn something new.
Right.
So I wanted to work for Steve. So I, you know, moseying my way back. So special projects back in the day when news organizations had these big investigative units, they're always in a back part of the station. And, you know, so no one can hear or know what they're working on. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to work my way back there. So I just kept bugging them, right? Bugging them until I was able to go back and be a researcher. But at the same time, I'm working in Toledo. So, I mean, for a couple of years, I was working like 7 days a week.
Wow.
You know, but I wanted to be around him and try to get some of his experience.
Right.
So that's kind of why I'm such a document whore. People will tell you I'm a document whore. When I can't sleep at night, I just get up and get online and go through documents. So that's kind of like, you know, so then, you know, so I'm at 7. I think I was in Toledo for a while, and then Robin Schwartz.
I heard of that name.
So she used to be a weekend anchor at Fox 2. She went out on maternity leave. So Fox 2, Channel 7 wasn't letting me on air. So Fox 2 was like, hey, we need someone to come in and fill in for her. She's going out on maternity for 3 months. Will you come over and, you know, fill in as per diem? So sure. So I left 7, went to 2. And I was there for 5 years.
It sounds like the white Wendy Williams story, but
Right.
You didn't have to sleep with anybody to get to the
No,
show. I'm just saying.
No, it's like, but you work. But here's the thing: it's like you work your ass off. Like,
Right.
you know, when you're sitting at home and they're on a big breaking story, I was the one going, okay, let me research that company. Hey, this company had these EPA violations.
Right.
Boom, let me send it to them.
Right.
I'm not getting paid for that.
Right.
Like, you know, it's
Right.
but you're being a part of the team.
Right.
So yeah, my 3 months turned into 5 years, which is why I got to work with Charlie LaDuff. So LaDuff, but I'm still per diem, and your general assignment. So general assignment is literally you come in, whatever is on.
So you're as needed getting the shit stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember, like, I can remember it like it was yesterday. So Charlie's desk was actually kind of catty corner from mine. And he, so I live in Keiko Harbor, which is close to Pontiac.
Okay.
And I kept pitching all these stories about Pontiac because they were the ones going through the emergency manager. And, you know, it was like, hey, this is, it's basically, and I remember Charlie's like, yeah, it's like Pontiac's a petri dish for what's going to happen with Detroit. So it was before Detroit's bankruptcy. And I remember I got called out. There was a story. It was the police department that was crooked, and they were doing a raid and arresting people and this, that, and the other. I don't know
about police.
So they sent us out. They sent me out with a photographer, but they were going to send Charlie out to front it. Charlie's a newspaper guy and not that day of news turn. He's longer form, right?
Okay.
So by the time he got there, I'm like, okay, here's what I got. I got this guy, this guy, this guy. Here's a picture on here. Here's a picture on this, blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he goes,
I'm not reading all of that.
and he goes, well, you're not the dumbass blonde I thought you were. So
that's Charlie.
I said, well, you're still the drunk I think you are. So here you go.
See, that's your mouth. That's your mouth.
Right. You're like, but since then, I respect them. In fact, I could tell you when the one Blight story happened. So I'll put this out there for the first time was like, we were on the story with the Detroit demolitions and, let's just say things that were adding up with the Detroit demolitions. At that time, I was working for Channel 7. Channel 7, they weren't pulling the plug. They just weren't doing it. So I said,
what do you mean when you say pull the plug?
I think it was like they were being cautious. Like we had the numbers, we did this, we did that. And it wasn't even my original story. I was brought into it as like a side person. But when we weren't going to do it, I said, I called the guy, the tipster, and called Charlie and said, call him, hook up. You know, because I'm not about the story. I'm always going to be about the people. And I felt that the story needed to be told.
Right.
And I felt like Charlie could do it better, and he did.
Okay.
He did. He knocked it out of the park. And then once he did it, and then we kind of followed suit, even though it was our story first. But
right. Charlie could dive in it and he could give you more raw details than what they were willing to let you go.
But it's also the way Charlie tells stories.
Right.
So at that time, he was still with Fox 2. He was doing the Americas and was kind of on a hiatus from traveling every week. And I knew, hey, let me give him, because he tells it in the Charlie way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because one thing, like I remember Charlie saying to me is like, be accurate, remember the people, but tell the story different. Mm-hmm. You don't need me to just stand there and do the same story the same way, right?
Nope.
It doesn't get the attention. And I still remember that story. Like he's like laying in a bed in one of the abandoned houses, like with a girl on, right. And it's like, it's so Charlie, right?
Right.
But you can't, when it comes to people, you can't, it's not about me. It's not about me as a reporter. And, you just look for the best person to tell a story. And sometimes that's not me.
Right.
Sometimes it's someone else. And if I have to, or, And that's not just a me thing. I've had other reporters do the same thing, where
Okay.
they'll give me stories as well. So that's kind of like my Charlie thing, but I always love it. You're not the dumb
Well,
blonde.
not the dumb blonde that we thought you were.
It's like,
Well, that he
yeah.
thought you were.
Right.
No.
But that's my Charlie story. But I will say the thing about him, I know he gets a lot of backlash, and sometimes he goes public with information I wouldn't feel comfortable going with.
Yeah.
But he has more passion in his pinky.
You know, this job doesn't pay.
Yep.
You gotta have a passion for this.
Yep.
You gotta have a passion for the community, for the people. It's about the people, like you
Yep.
say. This is why we're here now. You know, you didn't see me as a photo op type of person trying to get in front of a camera, which I do love now.
Yeah.
Y'all do know I love the camera. But you seen me trying to help the people, get the word out.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for reaching out. And we two bad bitches. man.
Right? People want to say like, watch out for this person, watch out. And I always just say, just go talk to them. Because people may have
They would
like,
never say anything bad about me, but Wyntis is nice and sweet, very quiet, reserved.
I mean, at the end of the
You're looking at me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
But so for me too, it's like, you come to a city like Flint. So,
Mhm.
I piss off of people because I don't play the game. So, my news director in Detroit put me on. They used to call me the B block. So there's a ratings, right? So when you're in news, you have that first block, they call it the A block, and then you go to break, and then the second block is the B block.
Okay.
Well, you lose viewers in there.
Right.
So he came up with a plan. We got a new news director at Channel 7. His name was Dave Manny. And he used to be Kwame Kilpatrick's communications manager.
Okay. Okay.
So he has some stories I would love to know one day, right?
Okay.
I will say one of the best people I've ever worked for. I would take a bullet for this guy. So he came up with a plan because he had worked inside City Hall, who knew how things worked.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, hey, I think I did a squatter story. He's in New York, doesn't know that, we don't know that they're hiring him yet, but he's interviewing to be our news director at Channel 7. So he's watching a story of mine, and it was on these squatters. And so I go confront him, and I was like, oh, so you're going to shoot me? Really? Right now, you're going to shoot me?
That's what you told the squatter?
Yeah. And then he was like, he goes, we were freaking out in New York, and you're like laughing. And he's like, what are you thinking? And he goes, if that happened in New York, we would have had a security team. And you're just like, whatever.
What were you thinking though? Like, what made you, like, I'm just not going to go out to an abandoned house and tell anybody in Flint to shoot me. They would.
Well, part of it is there was a history with this family living in this house. Number one, too, we had done multiple stories with them. It had actually started when I worked at Fox 2 with the squatter, and then it moved into over at Channel 7. So she moves in. They're squatting at a house next to a captain of the fire department. And it's a really nice block.
Okay.
If you're going to be a squatter, be a nice squatter.
Yeah.
Move it.
Keep
Plant
the house
some
clean.
flowers.
That's right.
Because in fact, they will like it because it's going to keep the house from becoming abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
But they were like, drugs, music. It was just, and this is a nice block. You had professionals, teachers, social workers, and it was destroying the neighborhood. So I think it was like third or fourth story I'd done. And so then he was kind of laughing, but so I knew, like, but I also knew the neighbors were watching out for me, right? They're not going to let anything happen to me.
Mhm.
So, so he saw that, he comes to Detroit and he's like, okay, here's our new plan. We are going to basically go after, I don't want to say just blight. It was more stories about
Rundown, abandonment.
but it was just, quality of life issues.
That's true.
Because, and I got beat up over the year for doing these stories because I know that people want to say the police have so many other issues. But if you deal with the quality of life issues when they're here, they don't get to this level.
Right.
But this is why people start to move out of your neighborhoods. The good people, the taxpayers. So now you're losing your tax base. Now you're losing, that's why they're leaving. So we can take care of the quality of life issues, then people won't leave.
Absolutely.
And it stabilizes neighborhoods.
Right.
So that's basically kind of how I got started in this whole thing.
Well, that's cool. So now we got through all the fluffy and the
Yeah.
nice shit. Ronnie, Flint is messed up. If you said you rode through this city every day before you went to work, first of all,
Yep.
you need some new tires. Right off the bat, the streets, you need some new tires. But when you ride through some of these neighborhoods, I remember just driving out. I work with this guy named Robert, and he said he grew up on a street, Woodrow, over in the 4th Ward off of Dorr Highway somewhere over there. And I didn't drive over there, but I was driving down Davidson, and I'm like, it's nothing here.
Yep.
And what you do see is burnt up. How, this is my statement, but I'm gonna let you talk about the blight issues and what we see around the city. We're celebrating in other parts of the city, but then over on this side, we living in a third world country.
Yeah.
And people are thinking, this is how I'm supposed to live. I'm not, this is as good as it gets. What you think, man?
For me, it was Washington Elementary and seeing little kids play at the playground with that school as their backdrop.
Wow.
So they're going to the school and utilizing the playground equipment.
Yeah.
With that burned out, blighted structure behind them.
Yeah.
What does that do to a little kid to think this is normal?
Yeah.
It's not normal. And what's sad is I know blight.
And you got something here from 2014. I'm like, what is this Ronnie has?
Right. This is how much I've become. So when I fought back about becoming the B block person, because
you wanted to be on the A.
Because you're a reporter and you fight for I have years of experience, like
Right.
sources. You build your sources. You take them out today. Because you're only as a reporter, you're only as good as your sources.
Right.
So you spend years building sources to then have to turn over those stories
To
other
somebody
people
else.
that are at the top, and then I'm in the B block.
Right. And they didn't do nothing to earn your stories.
Right. So now I'm in the B block.
Right.
And at first I was not happy about being in the B block. But when you start to really dive into it, you're a bigger impact.
Absolutely.
Now I know a lot of people got tired of my stories. Like, how many more tire stories does she have to do? How many more like abandoned houses stories? But we were getting entire neighborhoods changed. People that felt like they had no voice and no one cared anymore, we were able to fight and get their entire, get the illegal dump site cleared up, get this cleared up, right?
Mhm.
You have to re-engage the neighbors and give them hope.
Right.
Because if not, you complain 3-4 times and then no one listens.
It goes
You say,
away.
"Yeah."
Swept under the rug.
So when I came to Flint, you start driving around and to me, it's the number of burned out homes that don't even have any type of fencing around them.
And when we talked about that, and you said something about the orange is supposed to be some type of orange
Yeah,
mesh
so
stuff. around
Most
it.
cities will, they stop doing metal, but they'll do wooden posts with that orange mesh netting around it
Uh-huh.
to at least let people know that this is an open, dangerous hole.
I don't even remember seeing that in Flint, Ronnie.
I've never seen it. The only place I've seen it, I did a fire in Burton.
That's not Flint, Ronnie.
I know, and the funny thing with that one too, because I've been back by.
Burton got their pipes done, Ronnie.
They within like
I can
a
say it.
couple weeks, and it may have been privately owned, which is different too, because there are different steps you have to go through. So it was like immediately fenced off, but then demolished, and the hole filled in because it's the holes, right, that are so dangerous.
Right.
I
Not
drive
only
around.
children, but animals.
Well, I think about how many missing people are in Flint. That's kind of a story. Even before I started working here, I was looking into because I had a true crime podcast. I was working on a story about a missing woman in Flint, and you were seeing how many missing women are in Flint. And I think, well, you have all these abandoned homes, so who knows who's in there, right? I mean, because you let them burn. The number of fires, like structure fires, and I've been working on trying to get these numbers, and let's just say it's jumping through a lot of hoops to get the actual numbers.
Numbers from who, Ronnie?
Well, you put in what's called a FOIA,
Yeah.
a Freedom of
Information Act. We got that.
And so people know that this is not something that's just for media. People think it's for the media. It's not. It's for every citizen. So I reached out.
Trevor writes one a week, every week.
Right? Don't you love them? I have them on my phone. It's you. So I put it in. I put one into the city of Flint. It was delay, like no response. Oh, I put it into the wrong person. I didn't add this, blah, blah, blah. And then it came back and said, we don't keep those records. So now I'm trying to go through.
Hold on. So they don't keep the records of the structures that have been burned or the count.
And it could be maybe I didn't word my FOIA in the way that.
But you've been doing this for a long time.
But I've been doing this for a while.
Okay.
So now it's like resubmitting. You just look at what other agencies are involved. So there are next steps. Never take that denial as like your first step. So then there are next steps. So
Right.
So now I'm just trying to figure out through the state because they have to report fires to the state. So I'll see if I can get it through the state. So
We're gonna get that.
but to me, when you drive around.
Oh, wait a minute, Ronnie, did you hear Councilwoman Judy Priestley the other day on council? She said it on the record. She said, we have an arsonist.
Oh, I think we have more than one.
Damn.
Yeah.
For real?
When you drive around the city and you see, I mean, how many fires happen a night?
I quit keeping up with them. I mean,
So what's happening is you have, when you're in, I've done a lot of stories on fire and the Detroit Fire Department and this, that, and the other, and statewide getting the cancer presumption bill funded and this, that, and the other. People will go to departments like a Flint or a Detroit because they want to see fire. So if I'm a new firefighter, I want to go to these heavy fire places.
not for $10.10 an hour.
I know, and they just got a raise for that too, by the way. But they will. But then after a year, they get that fire experience
And
out
then
of
they're
them,
gone.
and then they leave because that is actually attractive to other departments because they have fire experience. Because if you're in the suburbs, most fire departments are mainly doing medical calls.
Right.
They don't get the experience of actually seeing flames.
That's why you have a lot of nurses too. They come in and work at the level 1 trauma center because they can go anywhere.
Yep.
You know, so yeah. And they come in, they get the experience, they're gone.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, on one way, could you blame them? I mean,
No.
are you going to work for?
I'm not going into a blazing fire for $10.10 an hour.
No. So we did the story where we went around to some of the fast food places. It was like, oh, how much are you paying? You know,
They were making more than $10.10
Oh, yeah.
an hour.
Yeah. And those firefighters just got a raise. So even like, and I know that's
They just got a raise.
well.
Oh, the $10.10
no,
is something to cheer about.
because before it was the 10.10 an hour was only after the first of the year with the raise in minimum wage.
Okay.
Now, we do know that after, I think, they get out of the probationary period, it goes up. But still, are you working 11, 12 bucks an hour to run into a burning building
No, man.
and for the number of fires? So what's happening is they come, they spray it sits, they move on.
Mhm.
What's happening? Like, what is the process after that? Like, but I drive around and the level of blight
Mhm.
is astounding to me. And so much of it is fire driven. And I think what's happening is you have several things. You do have firebugs
Right.
that know that they're probably not going to get caught, but you also have neighbors that are just tired of looking at abandoned homes.
Mhm.
So if you have an abandoned house sitting on my block and people are using it as a drug den, you're calling police, nothing's happening, well, let me just burn it because at least it will take away that element.
And see, I'm thinking people are seeing, and I said this when I interviewed Mike Freeman. I
Mhm.
think people are seeing some of the house. They're not knowing what's on the demolition list and what is
Yeah.
it, but they're seeing like, oh, I burnt this when it got torn down the next day or the next week. So now they're just burning up every damn thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, like you said, it's got to be more than one. And then you said again, like, what's really in these houses that they keep burning?
You'll never know.
You'll
Right?
never know.
We'll never know how many people were in those houses
Yeah.
at the time that they
don't go through them or nothing.
Mhm.
After they burn them up, they just demolish them.
So there are so many, if you ever look into the number of missing people in the city of Flint, especially women, you wonder how many of them, their remains are there. Because we do know that a lot of times the abandoned houses are used
Mhm.
For drug houses. So it's sad, but what breaks my heart and why I'm kind of been known as a blight bitch. At first I was offended by that term. You just laughed. But I was offended, but now I'm like, no,
I'll be a bitch.
I am proud to be a blight bitch because we cannot let our kids grow up in these neighborhoods
Mhm.
and think this is normal.
That's my thing. This is the way of living, period, in Flint. I know you focus on the blight, but how the people are living, like you said, it does something to your mind. When you seen them little kids walking across that playground, past that school, are they thinking, A, that's just another burnt up building? That doesn't matter. Or will they say, I wonder what's in there one day? Never to be found again.
Yeah.
Well,
kids are curious. Of course they go into
Absolutely.
these buildings.
And that scares me when babies come up missing all the time and you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Women come up missing. We got a big problem whether people want to accept it or not on human trafficking in Genesee County.
Yeah.
Where are these women at?
Yeah. Well, we just had the case. I know that the case with Michael Barajas, who people know as the Michigan Monster with the filed teeth, made international news. And we interviewed, and I've been talking a lot with the victim that was held captive in that house.
Damn.
But there is there was the other guy that his name was Charlie, that was his body. He was killed and his body was dumped in the abandoned building. It was a business that is owned by the land bank. So and there's probably more to that story, like connection in that neighborhood of these people. But it literally, like, there's the house where she was held captive. Right here is where that building was, and his body was found in there.
Wow.
So that's what's happening in these buildings, right? And I think that was like the friends and the family went out looking for him, and someone found him in there.
Just
So-
right there.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing about it. Like, you can't totally. When I talk to Mike Freeman, you can't totally blame the land bank
Right.
for this dumping and like because it's a house on the corner of what's that house that burns me up? Moore and Saginaw Street, across the street from Dewey Park. It's a greenhouse. It's a land bank house. It's all kind of garbage bags and shit out there in front of that house.
Yep.
But the land bank not doing that. It's the neighbors.
Right.
I talked to some of the neighbors. They said it's somebody that lives here on this street that's doing it.
And why not just put it on the
curb?
So I've been knowing, like, I go through the trash, and when I find the trash, like, I'll go knock on the doors. One time I returned a boat, an illegally dumped boat to someone. Like, because
they don't. That's above
I
my
mean-
pay grade. I'm not doing.
But you go
I'm
through
not
the
doing trash.
you go through the trash, and then you say, "Hey," but what it is a lot of times though it's typically the one thing I have not seen in Flint that we had in Detroit was the illegally dumped tires. Like we had houses stuffed with tires, and those are so dangerous because if that goes up, like give it up, right? But
You
so
just
the
leave them at the
tires,
tire shop. You see that tire shop on
Yeah.
Clio Road in Dartmouth?
Yeah,
Is it open?
no, that's not coming soon. I've been trying to track the owner of that, by the way.
Oh, you can't find them.
No, I found them. Did I send you?
No.
So
We'll
I
talk
will
about that.
say,
Okay,
like
okay.
one of the best things about the city of Flint is they have the Flint portal. So if anyone doesn't know about it, it's you can download the app.
Oh, I know all about the Flint property portal
Oh, I love it. And
I
now it's
love
not
it too,
100% accurate,
because it
but-
was brought in by the Weaver administration.
Well, I don't know, and I don't play politics, but
I do.
But I can say it
Go
is because sometimes trying to track down the property owners is like a full-time job, right? There's got to be something in the process where they can start going after these property owners, because how the law is written is I'll put it in an LLC, and then if it goes under, I just walk away. Well, you can only go after that property of the LLC. Well, I don't want the blighted property. I
Right.
can't go after the person with the money, right? I can, so then that's how the city and the county, they're ending up with so many of these. So there has to be something changed in the law there to allow them to go after these property owners that walk away from these blighted properties.
But it's like, what are we doing wrong in Flint? Because I have family that come up from the South, and they've never seen anything like this.
No.
You go out of town, you don't see stuff like this, like you see in Flint, Detroit. You just don't see it. So what is Michigan doing wrong?
I don't know. That's a good question, because I went to school in South Carolina, and when I go back to Charleston and they show me their blight there, I laugh.
There's another video city of Flint truck, baby.
Ronnie, I'm telling you, you got us popping today.
Right. But that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I covered Chicago for a while, and I remember going into one neighborhood and they were telling me like, "Oh my God, it's so dangerous. Be careful, be careful." And I was like, "This looks like Huntington Woods." Like, I was like, "What? No." So I don't know what the answer is, other than there has to be some type of policy change between, it starts with your city's blight department and from the blight department, but it's the courts are a big part of this too.
Of course.
And, because you have to take there's a process, if I have a property, I can't just start tearing it down or something. It has to go through a process, and that's where the courts come into play as well.
Right.
And I think it's really an effort on so many levels, because city officials can sometimes really kind of take the brunt of these things, but the courts always kind of get a pass. And some of these answers lay in the court system. So it's like, who is going to make that happen?
So, did you see the land bank at the city of Flint at the council meeting the other night?
I didn't. So I was, I'm off on Monday, Tuesdays, and I was in a NyQuil-induced coma for 2 days. Like I didn't wake up I woke up at 3 a.m. to the Michigan State Michigan State
Right.
University shooting. I was like, oh shit, like I was out of
Okay.
it.
So, everything's not gonna be demoed by next year.
No,
Okay.
this is a process. Like
It's
people
not-
think it's going to be happening. That's why I think some of these neighbors are burning down homes. They're smart and they're savvy and they're watching where these demo areas are going, and they think, "Oh, I'm going to burn it down. It's going to get demoed." No.
Nope. So, and just in this one, and this what they presented, they got 2,950 homes in Flint that need to be demoed, 300 in the Out County. Funding is a big part. They received a lot, like the 16 million from the city of Flint. They've had State Land Bank and other foundations kick in, but selecting demos with community input. I liked that was used. They used council input and the Flint property portal. So they talked about the results of selecting demolitions.
Right.
So houses directly next door to occupied properties. Houses in area where more people live. Houses near open schools. Houses that are burnt. Houses with fire insurance funds. Houses near local parks. Houses on or near major roads. What do you think? Do you think, like, is that the way to go?
So it's hard when you're the person living next to that house, right?
And this is not slated to be completed, those 2,900 homes, until 2026. So the ones that you
and
guys
you're
are
just going to have
adding,
more,
you're adding each day, it's not in this.
right? So every
Okay,
day there's
so
going to
yeah.
be more.
Yeah.
And I know that they want to argue kind of like the more we tear down, the less fires, blah, 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 blah. And you got to find the root of the problem with the fires.
Right.
And you got to start addressing that. I understand that there has to be, because how it's been explained to me in the past is, if I have only so much money. If I can look at neighborhoods that are on the verge of not being stabilized and taking that money there, tearing down more homes there, I can stabilize that neighborhood and bring people and keep people.
Mhm.
Versus doing one here, one there,
Right.
one there, one there.
Right.
They call it like the missing teeth syndrome,
Mhm.
where you drive through and it's like one here, one here, one there. My money is not going to have as much of an impact.
Right.
I truly understand that argument, but when you have that person, especially when it's an elderly person, because we know a lot of times our elderly, they don't want to leave. This has been their house for 50,
they're not
60,
going
75
anywhere.
hours,
Right.
right? To me, there seems to be like there's got to be some exception for some of those houses versus the ones where you want to try to take and utilize and stabilize a neighborhood, because that's on the brink. And if we don't address it quicker rather than later, then that neighborhood's going to be gone too. So let me put my
but the
resources
neighborhood is
there.
going to be gone if you tear down the houses and it's just one house left. They're not rebuilding anything. That's another issue that I have.
Yeah. And that just kind of comes into, you have to look at what is behind this and is there any possibility? That's where economic development ties into all of this. So the one thing you have to look out for that really kind of came to light, and I apologize if I make a lot of correlations to Detroit, but that's my experience and my history.
We get it.
But you have sometimes corporations that, it's no secret. Like we were trying to dig through this and uncover this back when I was with the stations in Detroit, is that you had companies like the Maroons that owned the Ambassador, the bridge, right, that were buying properties not just here but in Canada.
You got a family that owns the bridge.
But then you also have Gilbert's, right? Or the
They doing it
Illages,
big
right?
time in Detroit.
So you have the Illages that knew years ago that they were going to start this district Detroit.
Right.
So what they were doing is buying these properties in as shell company LLCs, allowing them to become blighted. And then the whole, like, it would decrease the value of all the homes around it. People would move, they become more blighted, they go in and buy those, because then they could buy a larger area for cheaper the price.
Damn.
So,
And we see that happening right before our eyes here.
but you have to look at, like, what are those long-term plans? One thing in Flint, and I'm not saying that's happening in Flint, the one thing I would just say that could be a red flag is they've recently just changed the zoning
Yes, they have.
of
Ronnie,
certain
tell 'em.
areas, right?
Yep, yep.
Like areas that were commercial are now being zoned for residential. So
Like I think I heard the Value City South. What's that? Was it the South Flint Plaza?
yeah, I don't know that I know, but properties up and down Dora Highway too.
Yep. Rezoned for
So if I'm buying, I bought that property
condos.
and it was, I bought this property and then it was commercial, but now it's all of a sudden rezoned residential. Well, what am I supposed to, like, I'm not grandfathered in, what am I supposed to do? But those are the red flags in my history to start paying attention to. And I think if you look at that, you look at where the rezoning is, but you also then look at where the fires are happening.
So in just what you see, what's the biggest area of the city in Flint that you think have the most fires? Those like
It's really, really messed up.
I haven't even really been able to look into that close enough to
okay.
give you a specific. From what I understand is last year it was the north end. This year you're seeing all the fires on the east side. Now I don't have the documentation to support that. That's just in talking to sources and other people and that have been
Don't
around
we got a
the city
state
long
fire marshal? Don't they? Like you said, they got to report the fires. We can.
So
Oh,
it
yeah.
used to be in the city of Flint. So for people who don't know too, I also took a break from news for a while and worked for ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and
The
Explosives. Yeah, it was a thing. And so with that, for a while, the city of Flint could not afford a fire investigator, so the state was doing all of theirs. And then ATF would assist on certain fires. But I believe within the last couple of years, they do now have a fire and an arson investigator. I believe it's someone within the Flint police department. So that's one thing people don't understand. Like, arson is kind of a weird thing. So typically they will have police investigative powers along with arson because
I didn't know that.
they cross-reference and they
Okay.
correlate. So usually it's either you'll take a firefighter and put him through the arson, or you'll take a police department and put him through the fire, so that they can have the powers to do arresting and this, that, and the other. So I believe Flint has someone now, but they do still.
Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Let me know when you find out.
I put in again, like I try to follow certain things,
You put
but
in another for you.
and the thing, with that, like, but you have the state that does. For a while, it was completely the state. But here's what's happening. These firefighters go out, it's an abandoned building, boom, they put it out, they move on. If there are no kids inside or, no injuries, nothing's really happening. The firefighter's not injured, no one's hurt,
Ronnie,
they move on.
keep going, because sometimes it be kids left in the fire, but we're not gonna go there on this show.
Yeah. But, for me too, it's like, one of the things for me is the Midway Square down the road. You had the fire down the road here at
Midway.
so Midway used to be another name. It's right down the road when they had the fatal fire. And you go through that property and you're just like, oh my God, there are so many violations here.
Girl,
There was a shooting there.
the
recently.
Regencies.
So Regency.
Yes.
Midway. But no, it was Midway.
It's Midway now.
It's Midway, but it was. But everyone knows it
as the Regency.
Yeah.
I'm like Midway Square.
Yeah.
That's the Regency. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But you know, at the end, you just
They
look.
haven't even fixed those buildings yet.
But you look at it's like it all goes back to Blight, and you just don't have enough resources. Like we don't have reporters in this town. That you're coming in, like I could tell you for me, like you come in, you're turning 2 stories. So most of this I'm doing on my own time. And it's like, how much of that time do you have? Like you start to balance, and is it actually going to do anything or not? But
well, Ronnie, I can tell you, we've never seen this type of investigative reporting journalism here in Flint until you came to TV12. I don't remember anybody at TV12 ever doing what you do. The last good investigative reporter that we had was Bria Jones at Fox 66, and she left and went to Memphis. I thank you for what you do. I thank you for coming in and putting light on situations that normally light would not be shed on.
Right.
I know it's the role gonna be hard for you. I'm just telling you like it is. It's gonna be hard for you, but you got to be a bad bitch like me. You got to learn how to stand up to them, baby.
Well, here's what my motto has always been, if I'm not pissing someone off,
You're not doing
I'm not doing my job. I'm not in here to be everyone's friend.
That's
and that
right.
includes coworkers.
Uh-huh.
I get it. But at the end of the day, it's about the people. And we can't let relationships get in the way of the people. And I think, I grew up poor. I come from a family of 9, single dad. Neither one of my parents had high school diplomas. I was, so we had 2 sets of twins. My twin and I are 8 and 9. And I was the first to get a college degree. And when you're poor, people act like you don't have a voice. And so it's like, no. And I just can't be that person who plays the game, because I know there are so many people that feel like they don't have a voice because of their income level. Yeah. And that's not how the world should work.
And they just left alone. And that's where I feel like people like us come in. Yep. And we got to be the voice for the least of them.
Right.
And we got to do it with a real passion, without a hidden agenda, without selling out for $5.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay it out how it is.
Right.
I love the people. I love the city of Flint. I'm not going to sell them out. I want to help them. I want to see everybody be able to eat. That's why I say it's the internet. If you want to be a voice, all you got to do is turn on that phone, go live, say what you want to say. It's room for everybody out there.
Right.
And speak up.
Because when you're in this position too, you figure out like there are resources, right? So I always say my only purpose in life is to connect people.
Right.
Because I'll be like, wait, I interviewed someone here. What if I put you in contact with this person or that person? Like, we're all connected.
Yep.
So how can we connect one another and bring people together? Mm-hmm. Because if we don't look out for each other,
right,
who's gonna do it?
That's true.
True. Politics people before politics always. So
that's what she said. Now I'm gonna try to agree with her a little bit. I put politics. You can't help but to navigate the politics.
No, I can't. I piss them all off. By the way, and I've already told certain people, I'm like, just so you know, when I can't sleep at night, I sit up and I go through campaign finance reports.
Don't piss Ronnie off today. She better still have a job. No. But they all know you here anyway. They've been traveling up and down the street. Yeah. So you're popular now, Ronnie, and coming on the hottest show in town right now. People really gonna notice you.
Well, and it's not like, just so you know 18. Too, like I never enter for awards. That's a big thing. Oh, I'm an award winning. Because I sat back and I watched how people don't understand, like as reporters, we usually have to pay and they'll manipulate the system and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, my only reward is if I get help for someone or I allowed someone to tell their story.
Everybody wants to be a Pulitzer Prize winner, journalist.
I have no desire.
No desire to
Nope.
take down a corruption.
The bigger thing is because what I have found is in those stories, what's the long-term impact? They go back to what they're doing.
Yeah.
The bigger impact I've had that makes me happy is when I go back to a neighborhood and I help get like 5 burned out, blighted homes torn down and 3 illegally dumped boats. And those neighbors then protect that land and they've made it into like a neighborhood park.
Well, Ronnie, I'm
That
just going to
is
let you
better
know.
than any
I get
award.
it. But if we're going to travel down this neighborhood of Blight, you know everything's a circle in Flint. We're going to get caught up in this world of politics. So I'm going to need you to have my back. Okay, you said you used to work for the feds. I'm gonna need some security. Okay.
Just so you know, though, I'm the Fed that doesn't carry. I always figure my mouth just gets me out of everything.
Oh hell, Ronnie, you gonna get us killed. We can't talk our way if somebody got a gun and you gonna start talking.
I know. Just so you, so I'll put this out there now. So you were talking about the illegal scrapper.
Yeah.
So did you guys see the video? We should flip the camera so they could see them. So look, here's the thing. People wanna beat me up like, well, they're just gonna leave the building. What's so much? They're just gonna tear a few things down. So what? They make some money. No, look what it does to the neighborhood. You can start some of these blight trends with the closing of a school in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because then they come in, they illegally scrapped, and then they destroyed that, and then they move to the houses, and then people start to move out because they call the police. The police never come. So we were driving by the school one day. I didn't have a story. I was going to check something out, and I see a van. It's parked. The school is vacant. So I say to the photog, turn around.
Oh shit! I seen that. I seen it, Ronnie.
And he goes, and it's with a different, like a newer photog, and I go, let me go check this out.
Yeah, he sent you out there by yourself, didn't he?
Well, I told him, I go, you stay in the truck because I don't want to put anyone in danger.
He did the Mickey on you.
So I go up, I see it's backed up, the door is open.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of go, oh, okay, he's in. So I say to the photog, just film, right? So we go in. Once we hear, because you never know, someone could be in there and they could need help. Because illegal scrapping could be dangerous, right? So once we hear the noise, we walk out, we call 911, we explain who we are, we give them the directions, we give them the plate number. And while we're waiting for Flint PD, which never showed up, then the guy comes out and I happen to be Facebook Living. So then I'm like, oh, I go, and he runs off, whatever. Well, after that, I had everyone email and text, here's who he is, here's what this, blah, blah, blah. So I know that the Flint PD was not happy with me.
No, they probably won't be happy with you today either. But tell it because you're a bad bitch.
Well, but I like to be open and transparent. So they were upset and went to the bosses and for concern for our safety, and I understand that. And I never want to put anyone in harm's way, but I feel like I've done this enough that I know how to read situations. And I was also with a new photog, so I said, let's leave the building. We never physically saw anyone. We just heard them down the hall. So we left. Because just like I was on the campus of MSU yesterday.
Right.
We never know when something's going to happen.
Right.
And I'm not doing this for the thrill of doing it. It's because this has a long-term impact on the neighbors. And the neighbors that are, 75 years old that live across the street.
Right.
They can't sell their house now.
Right.
Right?
Right. They want to stay there. They're not going to sell their house.
Right. And so by you not showing, and I get I understand the resource situation, but there has to be more of an effort put forward as to how we're closing and securing these buildings because we know how they're going to end up. And so when the scrapper, so then I got in trouble because they said that they could have, should have arrested me. And I keep saying, well, arrest me. At the end of the day, if I hampered your investigation, arrest me. Because I kind of feel
they
like
was doing a big investigation that
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But
Ronnie, you know what?
so
we
I
gonna do?
say, well, you wouldn't have an investigation without me. But
That's right.
then they want to, and then of course now I'm just going to say it right now. If I end up pulled over in jail, it's, they'll get me on that.
Pull her over, not me.
but
But look,
We got your bail.
it's only because the neighbors called, but they give up on calling.
yeah, because nothing happens.
And now the building's worth nothing.
Right.
So what are you doing now? You took from the taxpayers to pay for the school, and now you're taking from them again to tear down the school that you let sit in a state of disrepair.
Well, you know what, Ronnie? I just had a brainstorm. This is our next project. What are the schools gonna do with all these damn abandoned schools?
There's a lot. I will be celebrating when Washington comes out. Washington is by far the worst I've ever seen in my life. And by the way, I went to Africa. It's worse than I've ever seen in my life. So,
well, you know what? Maybe we have to go live in front of Washington School one day.
yeah. Well, they did just vote.
Hear that, Mickey?
But I think
he'll be in the car.
It was
with your photograph.
right. No, I just so you know, I know pretty much all the neighbors over there by now. And then some.
Look, Stephanie Rogers, I have to read this comment. She said they can't catch murderers, but they gonna catch the scrappers.
Well, just because I call them and gave them the plate number.
That's the only reason why they caught the man.
And then I was told too, by the way, I was told that he was dangerous and had a loaded weapon. Well, how do you know? You didn't show up.
I'm surprised.
Might have had it later, but
did 911 ask you? Does he have a gun? What kind? How many bullets does he have in it?
Yeah.
Because that's what they asked him, dumbass questions. And he came up, but thank God he wasn't confrontational. But I told you, you got to be careful. You can't, that you was lucky because you may have one that might try you.
Right.
And then you sitting on here telling them that you just gonna talk. You can't do that, Ronnie.
That's probably at least my 50th illegal scrapper that I've run into.
All right,
and I will say,
we gonna be in the trunk watching your ass out there because we're not gonna get
but
shot.
in my experience, they're in it for the money. They're not there to. And there's big money, by the way.
Right.
There was a guy that.
And they should scrap the junkyards. Quit taking the stuff, and maybe you won't have all these scrappers. Maybe that's in other states.
Well, we actually, because of our reporting in Detroit, we helped get the laws changed.
Okay.
So we teamed up. We got the squatter laws changed and the scrapping yard because there is a trail of paper, and that's how they're catching a lot of people is at the scrap yard because now they have to get the ID.
Oh.
And we even went undercover and sent someone in to see if they were following the laws and which ones were and this, that, and the other. But because of the reporting at Channel 7, it was squatters, the squatter laws. Because there were people that literally they were housejacking their homes and couldn't do anything. So now squatting, the first offense is a misdemeanor, the second is a felony, and they can remove you.
Okay.
But people were coming to their homes and couldn't get the people out. They had to go through the court system. So then they were like, well, you pay me $5,000, I won't screw it up. Put cement in the pipes and stuff like that.
Damn.
It was the squatting stories that we heard were crazy. But between that and the illegal scrapping, we did such a huge series on that it helped push for the laws to get changed.
Well, I hope we can make an impact like that here in Flint.
But laws are only as good as they're implemented.
Right.
And that takes a coordinated effort. And I do have to give a shout out because I know that the city of Flint, they do have a new Blight team.
Wait a minute, hold on. Belinda, she said, for the record, Africa has many beautiful places, and it's a continent, not a country. There wasn't no shade, Belinda. We love Africa. She was just saying, how some of the stuff be ran down.
Yeah.
That was it. But we love it's Black History Month. We're not gonna.
No.
Okay.
So we were in Kenya, and we actually raised money to get a school built.
May I step
So it
on
was
for
great.
just a second, Miss Wyntis?
Huh?
May I step on for just a second?
Sure, Trevor.
What are you
Hey,
just the
guys.
sweetest thing?
She's not GW. She knows the difference.
But no, you're right, and I say that, and I do apologize because people say that. So we were in. It was my sister has a nonprofit called the Sweet Dreams Project, and they raise money for a dorm in like it's a community college, Shamalanat, and they raised money to build a dorm for girls that are rescued from FGM. And while we were there, we saw the status of their school. And so the kids went back and raised money and built them a school.
That's nice.
And we are so blessed. I think that's the hard part too, is like after being in Africa or being in Kenya, the school, like these kids were so happy, and their school was a dirt floor, tin siding, and they were doing like math in the dirt with a stick, and they were the happiest kids.
And they grow up to be somebody,
Oh.
and they reach back and they pull somebody else up.
Right?
That's
And-
what they do.
And to see like how happy they were to learn
Yeah.
and to come back
Yeah.
and to see these vacant schools.
Yeah.
And the hard part was the books that were just left. And you know, for me, I'm thinking, oh my God, those books could be
In the schools just left, they could be donated to other
exactly.
just programs,
Some of
nonprofits,
them are
buildings.
still shrink wrapped.
That is crazy.
And you're like, oh my God, these kids would love it. And it comes back to the blight.
Mhm.
We forget to take, we become so numb
Right.
that this is the way we think life should be,
Mhm.
instead of us being like, we are so grateful. Like, this is not normal. Let's fight this.
right.
And keep up the fight until
It
someone
happens,
listens.
right.
But then with the schools, like, we're so lucky and blessed in America to have the schools and the system that we have. It may not be the best, but it's better than learning in dirt.
But that's
With
what
a
that's where it goes back to me saying you gotta love what you do.
Yeah.
You gotta have a passion for it. You gotta have a passion for the kids. You gotta have a passion for the schools. A lot of people in Flint, like, Ronnie says she don't want to dig in politics, but politics affects every single little thing that touches in the Flint. And people do things for titles. They do things for recognition, for acknowledgement, for just to be seen. And that's what I feel like is going on and why our schools aren't prospering.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the people that are ready to take us to the next level there. Because they haven't gotten there themselves.
Right. Well, and we, like I drive an electric car, and sometimes I think, what was that thought process of saying, hey, we can run a car on a battery? Like, we have to have forward thinkers as well.
Mhm.
Like, enough of a resource to invest in people who can forward think and be accepted for thinking outside the box versus just a bunch of people. No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. No, we
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
I remember when Chief Craig came into the Detroit Police Department, and one of his things was, I don't ever want to hear you say, because that's the way we've always done it.
Yep. And that's
He's like,
how we hear it.
Because the way we've always done it has obviously gotten us into the situation we are here now.
Right.
We can't do things the way we used to do it. And
Right.
we have to start thinking outside the box and thinking differently. And
We
that I
can't
think
make that
that's like
change ourselves. We
Yeah.
need people.
leaders. And I feel that way in the news industry too. Like, I feel like we're struggling, just like the police department, first responders, getting people to come into the news industry.
Because it
And
don't pay nothing.
it doesn't pay, and we're not allowed to tell the stories, like to do true investigative journalism anymore. You'll find very few stations that still do investigative
That's
journalism.
why people don't watch the news anymore, because
Yeah.
we tired of hearing about little fluffy stories and cookies and this new cookie shop and Cinnamon and all of that. We don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
We want to hear the real stuff.
So I think it's like, so with how we fix these things, how do we find that next level of thinker that thinks outside the box? In so many areas of the world, and that includes, leadership.
So are we gonna bring Mike Freeman to the table next time?
I know. I appreciate him. I will say he'll be open and honest, and he'll call me out and chew me up, but he'll also call me and say, okay. But you have to give him credit for being, if anything, transparent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
you do. He's gonna what I've learned from Mike, he's not just gonna sit there and let the shit fall on his shoulder and stay there. He gonna say, you put the shit on my shoulder, I'm gonna put it right back on you.
mhm.
It wasn't me.
Yep.
And so that's what I learned about Mike, and I respect him for that. So I think give me some likes out there. If you like to see me, Ronnie, and Mike sit down and have a discussion about Blight, give me some likes and let me know. So
But we also need more Blight bitches. Like
We
we
need
need,
more.
people.
Now, Ronnie, wait a minute. You're getting ahead of yourself, because it's not too many more people out there like us.
I don't know. Like
It's not too many more
just so
people.
you know, like I will dig through the trash and drop it off at your front porch.
Oh, well,
I will.
I'm not digging through no damn
Now
trash,
the
now.
boat requires having crews that can pick a boat. and
Well,
drop it
I
off.
mean, we might have some bad men out there, but not too many more bad bitches. Well, some of the men are bitches, but that's another show. Listen, Ronnie, I thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Did I talk too much? I was trying to give a background.
You were good. You were
Right.
good. I think the first episode that we did was like a history, and how things are gonna progress. You know, our shows are gonna be. Listen, this is not just you seeing me and Ronnie sitting down here having a cup of coffee today. We really gonna dig into this. So when you see us together, another city friend truck, my damn, we on it today. So when you see me and Ronnie together, I would say get the city trucks out, because we gonna shake up some shit. So, any last words, Ronnie?
No, I just want to say, to the people of Flint, keep fighting.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's frustrating, and I know it can
Oh,
be easy.
look, Mike Freeman chimed in.
But fight for your city. It's your
Oh.
neighborhood. It's your neighborhood. That's what I would say.
Mike Freeman said he would be happy to come on with the both of you.
See?
Oh.
I told you, Freeman, he's open and he's transparent, and you have to appreciate that.
He gonna chew you out though, not me. He likes me. Listen, everybody, thank you all. Keep sharing the video. Keep supporting Ronnie Dahl and what she does, and support us. The two bad bitches, and support you. Be the voice for your community if nobody else is. Just be the voice for your block. You got to start somewhere. So thank you all for a special edition of the Wyntis Hall Show. We will replay this edition tonight at 6:00 because of weather. So be safe out there, and I will see you all